blossom growing on a tree, white and pink and lazy as can be. But I'd be king just in the spring, so now I think it over. Gee, I'm glad I'm no one else but me. If you sit around and find the world is gloomy, and it isn't just your cup of tea, it's easy to imagine that it's rose in bloomy. You can think the things you want to be. So when all is said and done, imagining's a lot of fun. But when there are battles to be won, be what you are, it's best by far, and soon you'll be in clover. Gee, I'm glad I'm no one else but me.
Hey, what are you all doing here? What do you mean, why do I look like this? I just woke up, isn't it obvious? You came to watch me bake something. Now, I can't bake like this. You're not going to leave until I do? Well, you know what? I think I have a solution, so hold on tight. Okay, much better. So, today we're going to make strawberry shortcake, but with a twist. Now, there are a few steps to this one, so let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start by making a beautiful vanilla sponge. I'm going to take half a cup of butter that I brought to room temperature just by leaving on my counter overnight, and I'm going to put it here in my mixer. There we go, just get rid of that. And a half a cup of vegetable oil. Just get all that in there, nice. Set that aside over there. Bring it down, lock it in. And you're gonna wanna beat this on medium-high for about 2 to 4 minutes there, just so it all mixes in beautifully. Maybe a little smarter to start it off a little slower and then speed it up as it starts to mix. Now, as that's working its magic, I'm going to sift 2.5 cups of flour, and in here I have 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder and a half teaspoon of kosher salt. I'm just going to dump all that in. That's it. Maybe just beat the sides down and sift it in as that butter is doing its magic. Now, the reason why we mix the butter and the oil together like this is it creates air in the cake, as does this sifting process, okay? We want the sponge to be beautifully light and fluffy. Next up, we are going to put in 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, and I'm just gonna add that slowly to the butter and the oil mixture. Good, and we're just gonna keep that going. Now next we're going to add some eggs, but before we do, I want to show you the color that this has turned. This is quite wonderful. Okay, we'll just lift that up, unlock it. Look at that, it's turned a beautiful, pale, almost white color. We're going to add our eggs in, but we're going to do this one at a time. Now I already cracked one of the eggs in the dish, and I like to do it this way. For the simple reason that, what if you have a bad egg? You don't want to crack it right in your bowl, right? You want to make sure that each egg is good, so crack it in a dish and then incorporate it. And you want to make sure that you don't add the next egg until the yellow is pretty much mixed its way in. Now we have one more, so that's 4 eggs in total. And the last one. There we go. Okay, and to that, I am going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And you want to get vanilla all the way mixed through. Look at that mixture. That is gorgeous. What a beautiful color that is. Next, we're going to start to combine the dry and the wet ingredients. So, I'm going to take my flour that I've already sifted, lift this up, and I'm going to put about half of it in. Make sure that's about good. And I'm going to mix it again now slower until it basically all comes together. You want to be careful now at this point that you don't overmix the cake. If you overmix it, then it can become a bit dense. Now you might have to take your spatula and just push down the sides ever so gently. There we go. Just keep that here because I know I'll need it again. Good, that looks about right. Lift it again. Now, I brought also to room temperature 1 1/4 cups of milk. I'm just gonna pour the whole thing in there. Get rid of that. And here we go. You wanna start it off maybe a little bit slower because if you start too fast, it's gonna get everywhere. Nice, good. Then we just take the rest of the flour mixture and we put it in. There we go. And you want to just mix it so you bring it all together. Great, that looks about good. I'm gonna take it out. Take my spatula, just maybe scrape it off just a little bit. There we have it. Good stuff. And we can get rid of this. There we go. Then, you just want to now take your spatula and you just want to go down through to the bottom and the sides to make sure that it's all in there very nicely. And it is. Look at that beautiful batter. Now, let's get that into our tins. So here I have 3 9-inch tins that I've already greased and floured, and I even use a little bit of parchment paper on the bottom just for a little bit of security. Now, I don't have a scale to put my batter in, so use one of these, an ice cream scoop. Yeah, what I do is I just go down the line with each one, and this way it ensures that we pretty much have the same amount of batter in each cake. We just kind of make do with what we have. There we go. Now, you'll notice that on my cake tins, I have what's called cake strips, okay? And basically, what these are pieces of material that my partner sewed up for me, actually. And I've just wet them, and then I attach them around the pans. Now, what this does is that it slows down the time of baking just a little bit, so you need to be aware of that when it comes to cooking times. But it also enables that your cake doesn't dome in the center. It kind of gives you a nice flat cake, which is preferable when we're putting together a triple layer cake. So it seems that we have about an even amount of batter in each cake. Next, I'm gonna find my offset spatula in here. I know I have one. Ah, here we go. Now you just want to even out that batter through the whole pan. We're gonna bake this at 350. Now here's the thing, as I mentioned that I'm using cake strips, okay, the baking time is going to vary. I found when I use cake strips that I'm gonna check it at about 22 minutes. I may have to rotate the pans depending on. I have a pretty even oven as far as heat goes, okay, but you don't wanna open your oven until a good 22, 23 minutes in. Okay, that looks about right to me actually. Okay, so as per usual, we're gonna put these in the oven and we're gonna check it and come back for the next step. Of course, I have a lot of cleanup to do, so I will see you after the bake. Hey, so the cakes are done and they're beautiful, and I want to show you one thing. Look at this. Can you see how the cake has pulled away from the side of the pan? That means that it's done, and look at how flat and even they turned out. That's exactly what we want, and that's partly because of cake strips. So I'm just gonna flip this final one, just there, comes out, Easy peasy. Take this off, let that go. Now, let's take that there, and there we are. Now, obviously, before we decorate, we have to let these cool. But there's a couple more steps that I wanted to show you quickly. Now, I've already sliced up a pint of strawberries. Look at those. Those are beautifully sweet, beautiful, beautiful color. I'm going to do what's called macerating, which is a fancy word for I'm going to put some other stuff on it. And this time, I'm going to use sugar. Now, usually for strawberries, they're going to call for a little bit more sugar. I'm only doing 1 tablespoon because these strawberries, as I said, are sweet enough. So I'm just going to mix all that sugar in. And really, it's just going to bring all that beautiful sweetness to the surface. There. Very nice. Just give it a good mix through. And you want to let that sit for a while, okay? At least, for a good half an hour while the cakes are cooling. Now, I spoke of a twist. So I wanted to bring a little bit of a flavor of Nova Scotia in. So I'm using some of this. Check that out. Now, IronWorks is a distillery in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, where I live. That's literally 2 blocks down the street from me. I'm just going to brush it on the top, and that's going to seep into the sponge. Now, the strawberry is still going to be the dominant flavor, but this is just going to add a little bit of a zap. There. Great. Oh, and kids, don't try this next part at home. Delicious. Okay, so we have one more step before we put it all together. Now, in here, I've measured out 1 1/4 cups of icing sugar, and I'm just gonna lock that bowl in. There we go. And in my mason jars here, I have 2 1/2 cups of cold heavy cream, aka whipped cream, and I'm just going to pour that in. Now, the reason why I use icing sugar instead of regular granulated sugar is because when you do this with icing sugar, it just gives it a little more depth, a little more weight to support the cake. So I just put that down and I'm gonna lock it in. I'm gonna start it slowly first. There we go. And the only reason I start it slowly is so I don't get it all over me, because I've definitely done that. And then I speed it up. There we go. Good. Now, we're gonna whip that for a few minutes until it forms beautiful stiff peaks. I can usually just do it by look. I know when it's ready. I'm just gonna speed it up even more. Usually for a whipped cream like this, I would add vanilla. But this time, I'm going to add, you guessed it, more rhubarb liqueur. Now, last time when I did this, I was doing it to taste, and I found I needed about 4 tablespoons. Okay, so I'm not going to put all of it in at once. I'm just going to put about half, and I'm going to let that get all the way through. And it's important you just taste it. Okay, so that should be about good. Now I'm going to give it a little taste test here. Just going to unlock that. Good stuff. Now, I just washed my hands. My finger is totally clean. Delicious. But you know what that tastes like? It tastes like more liqueur. So I'm just going to put it in, lock it in, and let it go. And let's do taste test number 2. Totally great. Okay, so here's the final step. Let's decorate. So I have my cake stand ready to go with my first layer. I'm going to take my large spatula and I'm just going to take a generous amount of whipped cream and I'm going to place it on top of the cake and I'm just going to take it all the way out through the edges. Look at that cream. That cream is a gorgeous, gorgeous color there. And you want to be quite generous because the cream has to support the strawberries, right? And you know what? We have a lot of it, so don't be shy. And the thing is, too, if your cakes are slightly uneven, You can fix a lot of that with the whipped cream. Really? You can fix a lot of things in life with whipped cream, and I'm not just talking cakes. Now I'm going to take the strawberries that have been macerating for about a good half an hour, and I'm just going to spoon them on. I'm going to start at the edges. Okay, there we go. And don't worry about sauce dripping down. That's part of the beauty of this dessert. Good. Now, we take the next layer of the cake and we try to center it as best as possible. There we go, that looks pretty good. Same process. Take a good amount of whipped cream and just put it on there. Good. Next, we take our final layer of cake and we place it on top. There we go, and again, we do our very best to get it centered, and we use the last bit of our whipped cream. Wow, that is looking quite beautiful. I'm really happy with this. Okay, so next I'm going to take some fresh strawberries that I have not macerated. I've just cut up, and I'm going to place them arbitrarily around the cake. I like to start with one, and I like to find one with a nice stem, just like that. And I like to place it in the center. Good. Now, I've cored in half these strawberries, and just to keep it fun, I just kind of place them wherever. It doesn't need to be symmetrical at all. Okay, in fact, keeping it whimsical is sometimes just better. Okay, look at that. That's gorgeous. Now, I have a little finishing touch here. I'm just going to decorate the sides with some fresh mint. Look at that. That's beautiful. That mint came out of my window boxes at my house. That is a beautiful thing. Strawberry shortcake. And look at how easy that was. Now, why don't you try this recipe? And if it works out for you, take a picture and tag me on it on Instagram at the Dancing Baker Canada. Let me know how it goes. So, strawberry season isn't forever, so get to it, people. I'll see you later. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my channel. Now don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and when you do subscribe, ring that little bell, and hey, maybe share with your friends. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Dancing Baker Canada. So, I'm just gonna leave you here with this. Whack! Boom! Ha! See you next time!
But I'd be king